Chapter 1 Shells contain mercury. Very fun movie, is it true? The tattoo man has such great power that it should have only been in the novels. In reality, no one can do that. Mantra. A 15-year-old boy pondered in his heart. My father walked in and asked, "What movie do you watch, or child?" Mantra replied that he looked at the story. The Sorcerer is a story about the tattoo talisman. There are 2 parts already. I've watched all of them. It's not likely to be true. With this kind of mysterious magic, but it's fun. It's like watching Marvel's superhero movie. My father replied that these days, there should be no more occult sciences. But when my father was a young man, these things were very common. In those days, anyone lets go to tattoo a talisman because they have to protect themselves, which at that time had a hit and run. Most teenagers like to be gangsters. They fight each other during school. Between the districts there are small wars. Between Thailand and its neighbors, a young man who was drafted into the military, his parents and siblings would take him to find amulets, tattoos, or other sacred objects. Let new soldiers take to protect themselves on the battlefield. Some work, some don't, depending on the subject. But it's better than nothing to hold your heart in war, that could die at any time. Big Yan Tattoo Office. The most famous is probably the office of Reverend Father Pern, Bang Phra Temple, Nakhon Pathom Province. Especially the tiger leaping talisman, that when people tattoo the talisman, they will have symptoms like being possessed by the evil tiger spirit. Dad's friend went to get a tattoo. Some people, while studying things in the classroom, have to catch each other, and my father often sees people picking up things when drinking. People generally don't have a solution, most of them slapping their ears until they're out. But if a person has magic, he would then blow a spell at the tattoo man to restore his consciousness. My son asked if the tattooed man would have the same power as in the movie or not. The father replied that in the movie he did not only have tattoos, he also played. Superstition too therefore has a very powerful effect. People in the old days had a lot of superstitions. There were strange deaths, like those who cast buffalo skins into their stomachs and let their stuff into the air, was crushed by the spirit of a ghost. Some of them made a shield technique that was practiced by using willpower to slash the banana plant, but the target enemy was slashed. Some groups even show the wrong things to eat. There are a lot of people who have charmed the twin pills, wrong children, wrong wives. But nowadays this cannot be done. Or it's not as severe as before. Father once asked Luang Pu why nowadays various superstitions therefore deteriorating without the same power and destiny. Luang Pu replied that people nowadays have thick passion. Especially eroticism. When people think stories, the energy from thoughts floats up into the atmosphere. The power of sensual desires that arise from thoughts will drive the sacred atmosphere that the world had originally, or what the Chinese royals or ascetics called priyang, or traditional energy. Now it has completely disappeared because of the power of the thoughts of human sensuality. There will be only left in the deep forest area, that people have not yet reached the sacred atmosphere, so some remain. Are you interested in this, Dad? The boy replied to his father that he was interested. The father laughed and said that if interested, search for it on the internet. There are a lot of these stories. Interested, but don't be fooled. As my father said, people nowadays can't practice, because the sacred atmosphere had vanished. Even though I practiced, my power was less. After that day the boy was only interested in talismans and occult magic. Tattooing various talismans. Leave school back is determined, but searching for various mysteries in the internet world. One day, the boy went to a temple near his house and met Luang Pu Sumpong, who is a local person who has been ordained monks for 4 to 5 years. So I went to talk to Maha Sumpong about various mysteries and talismans. Maha Sumpong saw that the little boy was interested and gave him a small, fixing allowance, and told him to try and play this one first. Because even if playing, it is not dangerous because it is a sacred object used for medicinal purposes, and fixing your occult by telling the little boy that you can only use this cheap money, if you can feel the energy inside the cheap money, if you can't feel the energy, it won't work. The little boy was curious and asked what the power in the Pai. Maha Sumpong said that the Bai would have the energy generated by the mercury contained within. Mercury is a strange element with natural energy that was originally evil. But with various occult methods, when mercury is contained in the shell and controls the evil energy, let the good energy come out. This good power will fix the curse, and various occult magic you try to practice it. The method is by sitting cross-legged, holding the pawn in hand and telepathic focusing on the pawn. If you can feel the energy inside, practice until you are familiar with your inner energy, then you will be able to start using the pawn. As the little boy walked away, Maha Sumpong thought in his mind that very few people nowadays can feel the mysterious energy from sacred objects, or a talisman. What did we teach? Kids these days just love to listen to silly jokes. This kind of thing doesn't interest each other. We live funny live. Hundreds of thousands of people listen. Well, but it's good to teach a stupid kid too. Tricking him to meditate in case he can do it is a merit. Little boy came home, went into the room and tried doing what Maha Sumpong said: sit cross-legged and hold the premium in your hand, and then focused his mind on the pawn for a long time. Nothing happened, but kept a doubt in his heart that will have real energy like Maha Sumpong. Did you really say that? A week later the little boy went to the temple again, went to see Maha Sumpong, then said that he did as he said, focused his mind on the pawn, but did not see any energy happening. Maha Sumpong laughed and replied that this kind of thing takes time to practice. The important thing that you must have is concentration. If you are not concentrated enough, you will not be able to feel the energy from the pawn. The little boy asked what was meditation. Maha Sumpong replied, meditation is a calm mind. When people are calm, the mind will have more energy than usual and the mind will become more sensitive. The calmness of the meditative energy will arise and it will be possible to experience subtle feelings. When you can get up to this, will be able to use psychic powers for a variety of uses. Just take your concentration and go to school. You're good at studying. Maha Sumpong saw a young boy stumbled into the path. So he taught me how to meditate. You go home and sit cross-legged, recite the words Buddha, 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 and so on. The mind gradually calmed down, until the thought disappeared. That's called meditation. After every night before bedtime, baby, he sat and meditated as Maha Sumpong said every night. A month later, after the consecration, Buddha had a symptom. I felt my mind flicker and thoughts, as if the silence disappeared from the mind. A strange feeling of peace and tranquility emerged in his heart. And thought that this was probably meditation. He had repeated this over and over for several months and he became more proficient in his meditation. It's exactly what Maha Sumpong has said. When he was convinced of the principle of meditation, he rejoiced and cried in his heart that we had meditated. Then he hurriedly got up and took the pawn. Sit cross-legged and hold the premium in your hand, and then focus his mind on the pawn. As a result, a string of energy flowed from the pawn, flowed into his body, causing a feeling of coolness in the body. He felt that his body had become unusually light and strong. Keep that feeling in case you ask Maha Sampong at the temple later that day. After this, what should be done next? A week later, Mantra went to visit Maha Sampong at the temple again and told Maha Sampong about the events of meditation and was able to feel the power of the pawns. Maha Sampong listened to the little boy speak, secretly laughed in his heart. This idiot bragged. The monks have been ordained for 10 years. Don't just touch the power of the allowance. It's impossible to just calm your mind and concentrate. This kid only did it for a few months and came back saying that he could. Is it true that you meditate? Yes, Mantra replied that I really could, not just saying. The little boy had put the pawn and touched Maha Sampong's arm, along with focusing on the pawn. Suddenly, the energy from the pawns flowed into Maha Sampong's body. It was a warm energy that flowed all around, from the head down to the toes, causing Maha Sampong to be stunned. Blurted out that, "Boy, you can really do it." Maha Sampong continued, "You can do this. I doubt you have to find a good money to fix it. The one I gave you, I made it myself. I don't know how good it is. Really good stuff. On the premium side, you have to go find something. Reverend Grandfather Boon, Wat Klang Bang Kyo, that has been rumored for over 100 years, is an ancient item and follows the correct textbooks, able to cut off the evil power of the mercury contained within it. Release only good energy, cure bad diseases, fix superstitions. It has been very effective since ancient times." Maha Sampong further explained that the allowance can cure occult diseases. It actually comes from the mercury contained within. Mercury is a lifelike natural element. Its food is various impurities. Mercury will go to search for food in the water, or unclean, and the most strange thing is it can transform into 3 states: liquid, metal, or evaporate into gas in the air. Mercury is very active in eating dirty things. The ancient master relied on this property of mercury. Eat dirty things in the human body, such as various ailments, or you are the occult that makes people sick. But to use mercury directly. Mercury is a poisonous element. People allergic to mercury have mild symptoms, namely a rash, until it's as heavy as The ancients had to find a way to select them. Good properties or good energy of mercury to use, by being packed in shells and then filled with chanrong, a natural rubber produced by insects. Able to prevent various poisonous vapors at the same time, the ancient master will cast various Buddhist spells, labeled on the pawn, so the shells containing mercury are called. In ancient times, there were rarely modern healers. Most of the healers in the past were Thai traditional medicine doctors. Is a monk who has studied healing from generation to generation. In the past, the monk used to treat diseases such as lancets or healing pens and herbs. It can be called a true Thai traditional medicine. But people nowadays do not pay attention to look at it as outdated. Or is it a superstition that is not true? Therefore, it is seen as a superstition. Mantra heard the properties of mercury and the cure even with a gaping mouth. I didn't think there will be many benefits like this. Think in your head that when we know the energy in mercury. Next, if a disease occurs to one's own or family members, will try to use the treatment allowance.